Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Inside the Octagon alongside Arlington Cook. I'm Brandon Capozzi. Mario Pedinera is in the back in the control room, and today we are going to talk about UFC 286, Usman versus Edwards 3, the trilogy that took place in London, England. We're going to get started right away, but we're going to talk about that amazing co-main event between Justin Gaethje and Rafael Fiziev. It was a very close contest, but Justin Gaethje came out with the victory as he was the plus 200 betting. I would say, what's the correct term for that? He was the
Betting
he was the
favorite.
underdog. He
I'm
was
not
the
sure.
underdog. We'll say that. He was the underdog. So it was a very back and forth fight. It was the fight of the night. Both guys came out swinging. What was your opinions on the fight?
I mean, truthfully, is what we thought was gonna happen. Just an absolute war between two dudes who are just gonna go at it completely. I think the pictures after the fight kind of show the true aftermath of what took place. As
Hmm.
Gaethje didn't look like he got a punch landed on him.
Yeah. And Fiziev just got destroyed. His face
Oh
was
my
all bloodied
goodness. Oh
up.
my goodness.
Definitely went
Yeah.
right to the hospital after, but it was definitely a stand-up fight.
Yeah,
I
for
think
sure.
everyone kind of expected that. I think so easily. Mario, what were your opinions on that fight?
Yeah, kind of just the same for me. Two elite strikers like that, it's gonna be a war between the two of them. That's exactly what we got. I definitely believe that Gaethje could get it done. I think he's still one of the best guys in that division. And now with him talking about fighting Dustin again, it's gonna be. He said that he doesn't have many fights left, so he's gonna be making one more push for the title. So we'll see. We'll see how he does later in the year with whoever the UFC gives him.
Yeah, I definitely think that his path to the title is very clear right now. He's obviously still in that top five contention. And when we look at the lightweight rankings in terms of like who's fighting, obviously Charles Oliveira and Beneil Dariush are going to be fighting in May in Newark, New Jersey, which should be a great fight. Obviously, you have Chandler fighting McGregor at some point later in 2023. But one opponent that has a pretty open schedule is Dustin Poirier. These two fought it out a couple years ago in an absolute slugfest. How would you feel about Poirier Gaethje too?
I wouldn't mind it. I wouldn't mind it because I like Dustin, and they're both. That's gonna be more of a stand-up fight as Gaethje is geared towards. I just think Dustin is a more natural boxer. Trevor
Hmm.
Whitman's a great coach, and he'll have Gaethje ready. But I think overall, Dustin's experience and who he's been in there with, that'll show.
Absolutely. Mario, what do you think is next for the highlight, Justin Gaethje?
I think Dustin Poirier is probably next for him too. The second fight. Um I think if he is adamant about, it's a title shot and then he's gonna hang it up, then that's really one of the only opponents you can give him. Besides, if he waits until like the winner of Charles and Dariush, but I feel like the winner of that is gonna get the next title shot.
Hmm.
So
Mm.
it's probably Dustin Poirier for him.
I could definitely see it also being like a tournament style. The winner of excuse me, not Chandler, the winner of Gaethje Poirier versus the winner of Oliveira Dariush, possibly for the title shot. We'll see what's next for the champion Islam Makhachev. So let's move up a weight class to 170 pounds. The welterweight title was on the line. Leon Edwards and Kamaru Usman. Definitely a fight that everyone was interested in looking at because Usman was dominating their last fight, but that one head kick heard around the world. Leon Edwards shocking the world and becoming the welterweight champion. I think that this fight was a little bit surprising to me in the fact that I don't know about you, Arlington. I just thought that Usman came out a little bit slow. He didn't look like his natural self like in that second fight.
It's very easy after the fact, I guess, to say that Usman didn't look like himself. He did look a little slow because you've heard about the knee problems that he had. But we have to give credit to how good Leon
Mm-hmm.
truthfully is. He's a
Yeah.
champion and he's defended his belt now.
Mm-hmm.
So, but Usman's just a guy that nobody ever thought would lose. I mean, he
Yeah.
was that figure that I just never thought I would see someone go in the octagon and beat
Yeah.
him.
Absolutely. And definitely a lot of credit to Leon Edwards. He looked spectacular in that fight. And I just think that for Edwards, this is just the beginning of his title reign. Obviously, when you kind of look at it, the welterweight division is kind of slowing up a little bit. Obviously, Usman's not going to get the next title shot. He's going to be obviously the number one contender, but he's going to have to kind of face some more competition before he can get back to the top. There has been a lot of discussion about who will get that next title shot. Obviously, Colby Covington is there as the number two. The last time we saw him was against Jorge Masvidal. And obviously, we have Gilbert Burns versus Jorge Masvidal coming up in April when those two will fight. And obviously, Bilal Muhammad has said, I want that next title shot. I should be the next guy. What do you see Mario as the next challenger for Leon Edwards?
I think it's probably gonna end up being Colby Covington at some point, probably. Um, I think that whatever happens with him and who'd you say Bilal Muhammad?
Bilal
What'd you
Muhammad,
say?
he wants a title shot next. He's 5 in the rankings.
Yeah, he's been working his way up to that for a while. Whatever ends up happening with Usman, then uh, maybe eventually down the line he gets another shot. But I feel like the next obvious challenger for the title is Colby Covington.
I will say this though about Muhammad, and obviously, he wants that title shot really bad. He is a top 5 contender, but I don't know about you, Arlington. He hasn't really fought top 5 guys. He TK'd Sean Brady. Sean Brady, I think, was like 8 or 9 at the time. He beat Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, who I think's at like 7. Do you think that Muhammad has a case to become the next title challenger?
I mean, he can have a case, but truthfully, it's gonna be Kobe Covington
Mm-hmm.
most likely. Everybody knows outside of Usman, the best in that division has been Kobe Covington, and
Mm-hmm.
Dana's been on the record stating if Usman wasn't a factor, Kobe Covington would be the champion
Yeah.
because whether people like Kobe or not, all the antics and whatnot, and him acting out of his own skin, he's a great
Yeah,
fighter.
for all the talking that he does,
He's a
he definitely
great
he
fighter.
makes it up in the octagon. So obviously, we're trying to see when possibly that fight would happen. Obviously, Dana White has said, this is the fight to make. I think Covington, from what I've been hearing, he wants it at International Fight Week in July for a possible press conference of his old buddy John Jones. But also, Dana White has been saying that there's a possibility this fight happens in London. What would you think about Edwards defending the title for the second straight time in his home country?
I mean, yeah, there's nothing better for a champion than to be at home and be at home again. So that only would make it more. I think that would make it harder for Kobe to win,
You
just
th-
because Leon being at home. And they said once you become champion, it makes you like 30% better.
mm-hmm.
And he's already defended the belt against the
Mm-hmm.
baddest person we've seen in that division. He's fought Usman 3 times.
Yeah.
So who else can he walk into that octagon with that's gonna intimidate him?
I
No
th-
one.
I think if Edwards were possibly to get past Covington, I think the sky's the limit for him.
If he gets past Covington, he'll
Yeah,
be champion for a
because
while.
no disrespect to the rest of the division, but I feel like outside of Covington, no one really matches his skill set. So I really think that this is a big test for Edwards because Covington's known to be probably one of the greatest wrestlers in the UFC. I think that Covington would apply the pressure and take him down. So
And
definitely a top fight.
yeah, because Leon's not even easy to take down. Ask Usman.
Yeah,
Besides the
yeah.
first fight, it's not even easy to
He tr-
take him down.
he tried to take him down several times, and Edwards just had that great
Yeah,
defense.
and that fight went the distance.
The fight went the distance easily. Great job by Leon
Do
Edwards.
you think that down the line Rachmanov will pose a threat to
Oh,
the belt?
Shakov. I think so. I think he needs a couple more fights under his belt, though. They were saying about possibly him and Bilal fighting, which I honestly think if Muhammad were to beat him, I think that gets him a title shot because he has top 5 talent. What do you think?
Yes, he has top 5 talent. The one thing about these fights are is just it changes from fight to fight. Because these guys that we think deserve a title shot, he comes out and looks really bad or gets finished, whole conversation changes.
Absolutely. Great point there, Mario. So let's wrap it up here for UFC 286. Mario, what is your one takeaway from this pay-per-view?
Leon Edwards is the real deal, and now he's the person to beat in the welterweight division, and it's gonna be really interesting to see what happens with that. Also, uh, this is gonna be Justin Gaethje's probably last few fights in the UFC, so looking forward to that and seeing
Oh,
if he finally gets to the top.
also, to go off that, these are also going to be Usman's last few
Yeah,
fights in the UFC. Both of them are making their last run. If Usman loses again and gets further away from the title, he'll call it a wrap.
yeah,
He's already a Hall of Famer, already one of the best we've seen. So
we'll see.
it's a very
Yeah.
interesting year, a few years ahead.
Yeah, I definitely think obviously I agree with Mario that Gaethje, he kind of maybe has a couple more fights left in him. I honestly think the next loss for Gaethje will be his last fight because he'll have to keep moving down in the rankings. Dustin Poirier is a great opponent for him later in 2023 if he goes that route. And obviously I agree with Arlington that I think that it is the last kind of chance for Usman if he keeps falling in the rankings. I think that this is kind of the end of a amazing Hall of Fame career. And obviously now Leon Edwards, I think Covington is a bigger test than Usman because of the wrestling. So I think we're really gonna see how the champ defends his belt against another great opponent in Colby Covington. So that's going to wrap it up here for this edition of Inside the Octagon for UFC 286. Arlington Cook, Brendan Capozzi, Mario Pedinera in the control room. Thank you so much for joining. We'll see you next time.